purpose of the task was to develop, test, and refine solutions to a problem that impacted a part of your life. Completing ideation boards, value proposition canvases, and a validation board helped find a solution to my problem, that being the impact of co-curricular on a student's academics. To begin the process of creating a solution for my issue, an impact effort matrix was created to identify specific impacts that can be resolved. The topic of my IEM was the impact of co-curricular on students. Many of the impacts were academically based, as that is where I believe the greatest impacts occur. The IEM is scaled like a Cartesian plane, as the y-axis represents effort and the x-axis represents difficulties. The placing of these impacts was based off opinion and experiences, so bias should be considered when analysing the IEM. The next part of the process was to complete the customer segment, a part of the value proposition canvas. This was to achieve an understanding of the customers by considering their jobs and what causes them pains and gains from the impact of co-curricular. Using inspiration from the class example, I used the how might we question concept and applied it to the customer segment to help the process of finding a solution. Using how might we question, I asked myself, how might we amp up the good for those who choose to participate in co-curricular? This could be in the form of ATAR adjustments. Or, how might we remove the bad, like travelling, by creating local leagues to reduce travel? After the customer segment was completed, the process of completing ideation boards had begun. The first one to be completed was the Get Visual ideation board. It was a new way for me to think, as I was now visualizing the issues regarding participation in co-curricular by drawing pictures and pairing them to issues. This can help me find a solution, or at least guide me into the correct direction. The Get Visual ideation board is very similar to the previous two tasks completed. However, after visualizing a few of my ideas, I realized the reality of giving financial incentives and that it is only available to a select few. The next ideation board I completed was the Creating Frameworks relationship map. This was used in an attempt to find my possible MVP. It uses a mind map structure to link possible ideas and present how my ideas connect to one another. I started with the yellow sticky note of time management, then expanded to possible ways I could improve time management for students participating in co-curricular. I then focused on creating a solution I could possibly test with a prototype. I expanded on the idea of a prototype, which carried me over to the next step. The validation board is where I can validate any assumptions to any customer or problem hypothesis I have thought of. Using the validation board, I can show how my ideas have pivoted to create a solution. The initial customer hypothesis was students that play sport, and a problem that I believe affected students was that sport takes up too much time, which results in students having to stay up late to complete homework and assignments. With every assumption, I surveyed students who participate in co-curricular, and to validate my assumption, at least 65% of the students would have to agree with my assumption. However, the first assumption was invalidated, as less than 65% of students agreed with my assumption. I pivoted my customers as saying sport instead of co-curricular discriminates students which participate in theatrical or academical co-curricular. As time management did not seem to be an issue from my previous test, I pivoted the problem hypothesis to participating in co-curricular causes stress. I assumed the cause of stress was the balance of school and co-curricular, so I ventured into asking if the thought of deadline causes stress, and with 69% of students agreeing with this statement, I validated my assumption. Now, considering my validation, I thought of how might we questions like removing the bad and how might we identify unexpected resources which sparked an idea for possible prototypes. I did not pivot my customers or problem hypothesis as I wanted to test another assumption with the targeted customers. I asked them if checking your phone was a part of your morning routine, and as we are talking about teenagers, the results came back valid as 89% of students admit to checking their phone. This led me to my minimal viable product. In collaboration with the current Schoolbox app, my MVP is for the app to send personal notifications to students. This concept has a high potential with various possibilities and different approaches that could be taken. The initial idea was for the app to send a notification to a student's phone. Once the app was installed and the student had logged in, this notification would consist of the student's due dates for their work, removing the stress of never knowing how much time they have until their assessments are due. This was an idea, but as I continued to think, the convenience could help students in other ways, like notifying what lessons they have and at what time, or sending students personal study tips to help them manage stress. From the MVP, I then placed the product into a value proposition map, testing how I see the gain creators and the pain relievers of the product. Through this, I expressed my views of the potential of the app. Gain creators include it being convenient for those who have it, and pain relievers being it removes stress from the possibility of forgetting deadline dates.